Hello, greetings, all you fine feathered individuals. It's League Unlock. It's right now. I am Eric. That is Mark. We're continuing to preview a little bit of LCS action. We've done the power rankings there. Back in the burner, so it's time to go individual players for all 5 roles. We're going 10-1 from North America. And these are always tough to do because it's like, do you say, is this ranking after what we saw from summer? Is it coming into spring? And for me, these rankings are what I think it's going to look like in spring.
Yeah, I think this is where we are feeling as far as where the power players are going to be given their positions around the LCS. Yes, heading towards this summer split and what we can expect and how the dominoes should be falling out.
And we're starting on that top side, which will have some changes when you're talking about the all-pro team from last year, from the spring split. And a lot of that is because, well, I don't know if you noticed, but your boy Fudge had a pretty damn good MSI.
You better believe that here at League Unlock, we're buying in. Full stop, full sale, everything.
To the moon on Fudge. To the moon.
We were already in on Fudge heading towards this season, right? Talking about spring, and we knew was not going to be the easiest of rides. There was going to be some bumps. There was going to be a thunderstorm or two on the way. But we've hit greener pastures with Fudge at this point in time. You've seen already the trajectory that he is as far as on his development this year at the very least, and what he accomplished and grew and experiences learned and taken in at MSI. I can't help but feel this some type of way about Fudge and where you want to have him climbing up in the top lane power rankings.
And there were even glimpses of this in the finals against Team Liquid. He had some standout performances against Alphari in that head-to-head. It's not enough to feel like you can put Fudge ahead of Alphari based on what we saw in the spring split, but I think we're definitely going to be talking about them as the 2 best top laners in the split.
Yeah, that is something to be very, very clear and careful about, is no matter how much, we're getting excited about Fudge, talking about the progress he's made, what happened at MSI, everything of that nature, it cannot dethrone the level of performance and excellency that we have seen from Alphari early on in his time in North America, what he has been able to do, the way he's stepped in for Team Liquid right away, absolutely has to be the top dog in the top lane.
And then you move down a little bit, you have Impact and Someday. And Someday, as low as 4, is... Obviously, he had a big underperforming year by his standards. Not year, spring split. I'm expecting him and 100 Thieves to have a bounce-back summer where we're a lot more confident in them, because it was the first time in a while you could see Someday on 100 Thieves and not fully be like... Someday stuck with 4 wards, He was one of the reasons why 100 Thieves wasn't performing at the level we were expecting last split.
Yeah, when you realize where he is in this power rankings, it is largely due to, as you said, that underperformance, that bad split that he as well contributed to in that spring split for the 100 Thieves, but also considering what we know of him as an individual and what we have seen over the course of his career, and expecting some type of course correction in the summer split, more of a return to form. But this is one of those situations where you can see ahead of him, right? Talking about Alphari, heading in for Team Liquid. You've got Fudge stepping up to the plate, bringing his progress level up. It would have been unthinkable to have people ahead of Someday before this year and what they've done. Different landscape in the top lane now for Someday to deal with.
And even Impact was so incredibly consistent for EG that you had to give him some recognition. Obviously got all-pro honors in spring as well. One last thing on Someday, by the way. He is now... And this was true even last split as well. He is the longest tenured player on the same team in the LCS with the 100 Thieves. I never thought I'd be saying that in my life.
I didn't think we'd get to that point here in the LCS, but congrats to Someday and 100 Thieves on that long partnership, still going strong. I think that there still is a little bit of interest in this list. Of course, as you can go down, it's different expectations, different power levels, those type of things. But you get to a player like Huni on this list. And what do you do? Because what we saw from him and what you felt like you've got from him for TSM has to feel near what you could have ever possibly hoped as the
it's
peak.
Near the high that you would have hoped for.
But the problem is, well, that high isn't isn't as tall as the average peak on some of these other mountains that we're talking about in the top lane. And as well, there are those dips and valleys that happen sometimes in performances with Huni, and it certainly still is a question mark. And I'm certainly one that is still in his category, in his corner, willing to fight and argue for him type of situation. But that does not mean that you can't recognize the volatility that you might be dealing with Huni.
Yeah, I'm not confident he can even reach the same level that he had in spring. Of course, there's always the chance that he can completely surprise us. He's right there with a guy like Fake God, who people obviously... I've heard mixed reviews and reactions on him. Some are saying, he's the future best top laner. He's not even top 5 in the LCS. I haven't seen enough of these standout performances to really have him crack into that top 5 yet.
Yeah, I'm not sold in that regard on him either, but that certainly doesn't mean that I think he has turned quite a few people around in their opinions of him.
Most people were going to have him number 10, so...
Right, so this is certainly one of those examining of what the expectation was beforehand and what now it has to be, and people, eating some of their words and fixing what they think is now the trajectory for someone like Fake God and what he can provide.
Then you have Finn, who was really an outstanding performer out of CLG. Maybe could climb even higher if CLG doesn't have the horrible start. Licorice had the underperforming spring split, and despite his return to the LCS solo, is not climbing up the ranks. Sorry, my friend.
We're not buying in just yet.
Not yet. But there's a chance, obviously, this is what we're predicting. Who knows? You do these again at the end of summer. They're probably going to be totally different because our predictions, it's hard to predict a lot of this stuff. Now we go to the jungle, and everybody's riding high on Fudge after the MSI performance. Everyone is riding low on Blabber after his MSI performance. But he's still a 2-time MVP. Despite one bad tournament, you got to have him number 1 for junglers.
The big thing to look at with Blabber and any type of thing that would see you have any reason to not be the number 1 jungler, given his performances, given the MVP trophies that he has picked up in this region, would be to think that maybe there's something, a bit of mental hangover, right? Something lingering over from these performances from MSI or lack thereof performances and bad decision making coming through. Whether that lingers, whether that has any nasty effects towards this split in the summer, that certainly is a possibility. But from what we have seen from Blabber, at least domestically, and especially up against this pool of junglers and where it should be headed, I have faith in him to rebound. And once he's rebounded, I'm not worried about those things that I was talking about in the past. Well, at least until we get to another international event.
We've said it before. He needs a nice old taste of home cooking in the LCS, beating up on some other North American jugglers to get back into that MVP form. Fully expect that to play out throughout summer. Santorin, we didn't see in the finals, but he was having a fantastic spring split. Even Blabber had the highest of praise for him, saying he was always the most difficult opponent for him to go up against. Closer in at number 3 for me. I know Dardoch was on the All-Pro list, but you had that playoff head-to-head where Closer absolutely smashed him in that matchup. And now you have Abadage coming over, who's obviously individually a big upgrade for 100 Thieves, but he's also played with Closer in the past on the Royal Bandit. So I'm feeling like Summer Split is going to be a lot more the 2020 version of Closer that we love to see.
It better be. And when you're
they
talking about the investments that 100 Thieves have made and the other aspects, and sure, you can talk about what they need to do in their individual roles, but you're talking about a jungler and what he provides and what the jungler can offer for the rest of the team. You make those type of upgrades, you can't help yourself but thinking about, and then you're combining it with this, and this is what's going to happen, the synergy, blah, blah, blah. Those type of things are why you can be hyped. Closer is a guy that absolutely provides you those reasons, and the potential for that level of hype needs to back it up, because we had this, a similar type of level of hype even at the spring split, right? Talking with a different iteration with the different Golden Guardians coming over with the 100 Thieves, talking about how things were going to work out with someday. It didn't work out. And the problem here now is, well, if it's not working out with someday, yes, hopefully, maybe either that repairs itself for the summer split. But then, now it better work with Abadage, because we weren't seeing it also work with FBI and Huhi, even down in the bottom lane, the type of when he would put attention there. So absolutely, really, the blueprint, the plans are there for a better summer from Closer and 100 Thieves. The execution needs to match up.
Yeah, and obviously there's higher expectations now with Abadage coming over, but this is 100 Thieves should be the favorites for one of the 3 world spots for the LCS, and Closer will be a big reason why. Then you have this duo of Dardoch and Spika, who I think are pretty similar in power levels. The difference is they do very different roles for their respective squads.
And I think heading from spring, a lot of people were, ourselves included, very, feeling low as far as on the stock of Dardoch and what he was going to provide for the LCS. We're not talking about Lena levels of low stock option for Dardoch, but certainly not what he delivered.
Somewhere in between. Yeah.
Well, he absolutely delivered more than that for Dignitas in the spring split. And when you're talking about Spika, I think a lot of people were expecting more, right? They were looking for those exciting plays. The only exciting plays that TSM made at their Worlds appearance last year, and you were expecting to see that level of progression.
He was supposed to be the new face of the LCS. Doublelift and Bjergsen retired.
And I think as far as that, that trajectory of him continuing to improve, it absolutely slowed down, but it still was an upward trajectory. I still think there were lessons learned and gained for someone like Spika. Obviously, the attention as far as where you are in this power ranking, it's not going to be any higher without any better performances, because as we look with someone like Closer, Santorin, Blabber, these guys are excelling. So you need to be at that level to be in that part of the power rankings.
Yeah, I think really coming into spring, you kind of had the big gap. You had Spika maybe up here, Dardoch here, and as spring played out, it was, well, okay, maybe they're a lot more closer than we initially thought. Svenskeren, former MVP of the LCS, way too inconsistent of a split and really an entire run with Evil Geniuses so far to feel confident putting him into the top 5. And honestly, you could maybe even make a case for Jose Diodo over him.
The real problem and an unfortunate thing with when you're talking about Svenskeren's performances is it really feels almost like a 30-70 split, right? Where you're getting 30% of these performances, you're saying, that's the Sven I remember, whether it's, Lee Sin Sven on TSM, you're remembering the good times on Cloud9, whatever it is, those you're seeing the positive sides of it. And there's this way too high 70% of plays and games that you're getting where, again, yeah, as you said, the consistency level of performance and effort and focus.
It's Brother Sven's gear.
Yeah, that's Brother Sven showing up, and he is absolutely being a good brother, donating kills and all the rest over to the other team with those level of performances.
Then at number 8, you have Broxah, who I think was wildly overblown how bad he was on Team Liquid. He's still not the top tier jungler that he was in the past, but he's a clear cut above the other bottom members of the LCS, and I think he absolutely has the opportunity to climb even higher on this list when we move in to the mid laners. And mid laners is always a fun time in North America. And for once, Mark, we actually have it split. 5 North American mid laners, 5 EU mid laners. I know guys like Jensen actually count as an NA mid, but come on.
We are going to take any bit of support and help that we can get in that type of battle.
I think the implications of MSI, and I already had this when we were doing all pros. I really wanted Power of Evil in that first team all pro. I think because Perks didn't play to the level that we expected his legend status to be, this is the split where we're going to see PoE take over that number 1 mid laner in NA throne.
Which is, that's a big task for him heading up into this season of what we've seen, the level of dominance that players like Perks, even someone like Jensen, can offer out from this position. The reason why you can feel this way about someone like Power of Evil, it doesn't take a crazy trained eye to have seen the level of impact that he had on this TSM roster throughout the spring split, and has some type of understanding of the progression and type of player that he is and has shown himself to be, working alongside Bjergsen, the TSM coaching staff. These type of things you have to be feeling on the positive end for someone like Power of Evil. But this type of shift does not happen without some level of disappointment, right? And that is absolutely talking about Perks and what we saw from him at the MSI stage. I know different level of competition, different level of pressure, expectations, all these type of things. Those don't matter to Perks. Those are just simply excuses at the end of the day when you're talking about Perks and his level of performance. Simply wasn't good enough, right? Not even close to being dominant enough, let alone good enough for someone like Perks at MSI. That type of feeling can't help but drop him down just a little bit.
And PoE, we forget how important, and many of the wins TSM were picking out throughout the spring split were PoE having pop-off team fights or incredible plays throughout, whether it was Azir or even control mages. My man makes those look exciting, which is hard to do sometimes in this meta. Number 3 is the newest kid to North America. It's Abadage, and no offense here to Jensen. We love Jensen, one of the greats of NA, but our boy Abadage has been training against Caps, Larson, Humanoid, and having standout highlight reel players talking about him on an individual level, despite going up against that competition. He comes to NA and all of a sudden, the ankle weights are off. He can be fully unleashed.
I know we like to meme about that, and yes, there absolutely is something to be said about that and the level of talent that he has been going up against, and especially right, the 1v1 matchups that you're having to go up against playing in the LEC. Different level here for Abadage and what he's going to be going up against. And I don't think we have to look too far just talking about Perks and what he did coming over here.
Yes, he hadn't played the role in a year.
He hadn't played the role in a year, but I want to think people to remember that, yes, this is not the complete level of dominance that I think a lot of people are saying this is going to be, this is like playing against bots was what it was going to feel like. I think there is something to understand. It's not going to be that severe, but absolutely people that are doubting it saying, yes, there is something to be said about coming over to North America and the difference in the competition and talent that you're going to be going up against. And when you think about what Abadage has gone up against, how he has performed and how he's handled himself, absolutely, there should be no doubts that he is going to be a star performer in the LCS.
The window to be best mid in NA was a very short one for Jensen, unfortunately, because it just gets recycled. More EU players coming over. Saligo and Pobelter, we have ahead of Jizuke, and I mean, you touched on it for Svenskeren. And if he's 30-70, those good plays, what's Jizuke? 20-80, maybe?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's less in the favor of the good plays and more in the inconsistency, which is just, I don't know, maybe it just is the nature of the position. It feels even worse when you're looking at mid lane and the way some of these things have gone for someone like Jizuke to be able to offer the aggression, the pressure that he is able to have when things are going right for Evil Geniuses. And then contrast it to just dying, trading undeterred, and these types of just whacked out decisions.
It's more unacceptable when it's this control mage meta with so many Orianna picks. Because when you see him on Ryze or Lucian, yeah, he can get that insane aggression, but then he's diving turrets and dying. So, yeah.
It's just not there overall for the Evil Geniuses to be able to have, let alone to have, Svenskeren at 30-70, to have Jizuke also at a 20-80 is not helping your odds of winning.
But somebody like Saligo, we saw tons of growth in the spring split. Some of his Zoe performances were fantastic. As long as he stays off the Ahri, I think things are looking good for him in summer.
Saligo is absolutely someone that I think people have had to reevaluate, what their early impressions were of him in his career and what he's been able to provide on Dignitas in this roster. I don't think anybody is jumping up and down and going, well, yeah, Abadage's here, but what about Summer Split Saligo warming up? I don't think anyone's doing that, and rightfully so. But at the same time, there needs to be an understanding of keeping that small level expectation of continual progress from someone like Saligo. And at the end of the day, that might be more than enough to stand his own in this type of power ranking and to make, again, couple strides, couple steps towards climbing up even further.
I mean, Summer Split Saligo does have a nice ring to it, the triple S's. So maybe that is something we're going to be talking about, him popping off for Dignitas. When we go to the bot lane, the 80 carries, this is the most interesting role to look at for me because you just look at the names on this list, especially now with Sven not going to be starting for Cloud9, at least the first good chunk of summer. And it is, okay, you got Wild Turtle, the Eternal, the Immortal. He cannot be taken away from the LCS. And you have Stixxay, another veteran. But outside of that, it's all young, up-and-coming talent in the 80 carry position.
What has happened over the course of the years, my man? We got no Sneaky, we got no Doublelift, and man, no Sven now. We're losing these names out of the top here. But absolutely, you better believe that there's still talent, still excitement waiting in these bottom lane positions in North America. And you don't have to look farther than number one on the list, Mr. FBI, and what he can do, how he can
Lane
dominate.
Kingdom.
I think it was a bit of a, I think stall is too strong of a word, because I still think there was positive progression for someone like FBI and what he was going through in the spring split. But I think absolutely it's not out of the question to expect more from him, and to be looking for more dominant levels of performance from someone like him against the rest of the ADC competition.
And I mean, outside of him, you had Neo, who had that incredible year with Dignitas. I'm expecting more growth out of him. It's not a sophomore slump yet. We got to wait till 2022 before that happens. And Tactical, I mean, the top three you're all talking about, yeah, okay, they've been around for a year or so, or played, overseas. Now I believe, what are we at? With King being promoted, 4 OPL AD carries. It's obviously the most packed position when you're talking about Oceania imports coming in.
And this is fantastic to see, right? Because this has just been a continuing evolution, growth, education for people even like myself, right? Seeing the OPL players and the talent level come through and rise up. Talking about, years ago, right? When Lost first appears and Echo Fox, and you're taking a slot with an OPL import, what's going on? These type of things. I understand different situation with the import export type of thing right now, but absolutely you cannot deny the level of talent and skill that has risen up, and the recognition that has to be there from some of these LCS teams to put them through into these positions. Because you look through and you talk about those guys, they are absolutely ones that can be doing some big time damage in the team fights against you.
Just because it's not the big namesakes that we're used to seeing in the AD carry position, I'm not worried at all about the level of play that we're going to see from all these starting AD carries. We have King right away in top 4. That's how badly he was annihilating the Academy League, not just spring, but the last time, the last split he was there with Cloud9 as well. So excited to see him, and I want to see Johnson. I'm excited to not see as much Senna. I'm excited to see him on some of these more carry picks on FlyQuest.
Absolutely, because as much as we have the narrative talking about all these young guys, OPL guys, and what they're able to do, and how they're making a name for themselves in this bottom lane, and you're changing people's opinions, Johnson is changing them in the wrong way, given the way that things went in the spring split. As you said, I think a lot of that is due to the champion selections and what was going on. But certainly one of the big things that you were very excited about with FlyQuest was going to hopefully see that continued progression from Johnson.
So that's a whole team issue also. You can't just pin that on him, of course.
Absolutely, and that's more than fair. But it is completely fair to put his performance under the microscope and realize that it was not up to last year's performance, or not even any type of improvement. So that needs to change for summer split.
I think seeing him with Dreams is going to be a much better pairing, because Diamond obviously struggled quite a bit in the spring split. Danny's going to be the newest rookie AD carry coming in. Got him in that number 8 spot. Pretty hyped up coming from the academy scene. Can he follow in the footsteps of Neo, Tactical, and Johnson, the man we were just talking about? And then last guy I want to touch on is Wild Turtle, because the guy is eternal. Doublelift and Sneaky, as you mentioned, move on. This dude has been around since the first year of the LCS, and he's still playing at a pretty high level.
I was going to say, because the crazy thing is, as soon as you write Wild Turtle off, as soon as you say, oh yeah, he's not going to be able to washed up, all these type of things, when he just pops into your team fight, he's flashing in and he's making sure that you're dead too. So it is always something to be careful of with Wild Turtle and what he's able to pull off in the team fights. You're right. Certainly has been, a little bit of time here towards the end of his career, towards the bottom of power rankings, certainly, sure. But that does not mean you disrespect the Turtle and what he has been able to do and what he can provide still for the CLG faithful.
Still don't think he's been a glaring issue on most of the rosters that he's been on, even if they haven't been making playoffs. Finally, we get to the support role, and much like some of the other ones, number 1 is pretty clear. It's Core JJ. He's the king of NA. He is the God's greatest Earth. He is Captain America to the LCS. And right behind him, you have Vulcan. And I don't really think you can argue those top 2.
No. I will not accept an argument for those top 2. It's one of the things that we love to do on this channel. It's our opinion. All these type of things. Love to bring in your conversation. There's no conversation about Core JJ and Vulcan being the top 2 in supports. I don't want to hear it any other type of way. You want to have a conversation about their positioning? Sure, you can allow that. But for me, what it is, the pinnacle, the peak of Core JJ, and yes, even with considering the impressive, very impressive performances from Vulcan specifically at MSI for Cloud9, it's still got to be Core JJ sitting on top of the support throne of North America.
Anytime you're a multi-time MVP as a support, even if it's the LCS, you got to put the Duke
and a world champion, by the way.
Yeah,
let's make sure that respect goes.
Yeah, that also helps. That helps. Sword Art and Huhi fill out behind them in that 3-4 spot, and I think Huhi, even though he didn't have the greatest split, I think him and FBI were still one of the strong suits for 100 Thieves. And Sword Art, you can talk whether or not he's worth $6 million, but he still had a good year with TSM.
If it's my money, well, I don't have $6 million to start with. But secondly, yeah, and I'm not signing that one on. But absolutely, one of the important things to remember with Sword Art was how things were going. Is the improvement from week to week, the consistency that you wanted to be seeing from him, the mentorship with the rest of this lineup, specifically Lost in the bottom lane, has certainly been something to keep an eye on as well. Heading towards this summer split, this is where you want to see some of that $6 million be flexed in. You want to get some of that power that you were paying for from Sword Art, whether it's on the Rift or off the Rift. Got to be feeling and looking for some effects of that one for TSM. And then he said with Huhi, it did feel like a bit of a, again, overall for the 100 Thieves bottom lane and overall for 100 Thieves, a disappointing spring split and what you hoped that they would be able to deliver. I absolutely still have faith in Huhi as an individually, as a support, but alongside FBI and what they can do and how they can grow and how they can rebound. Certainly looking for that in this summer split.
Talking of rebound, I mean, Afro in at number 5 had one of the best bounce back splits. So many people, which was tragic to see, by the way, calling for his retirement, saying he's completely washed up. And yeah, he wasn't playing at 100 Thieves MVP level, but it was really nice to see him have such a good split back. And my dude is just churning out and training these 80 carries. He's literally Splinter for the Ninja Turtles, and he's just getting a new turtle every year.
You love to see it. You love to see what he's been able to do still here with the Dignitas team and everything else. And again, this has got to be props on the side of some cool heads, because I can tell you what we saw from the CLG stint that Dardoch had. Not leaving on the best of terms with Afromutu. So to get that working out and the way that they've had to have some chemistry on this Dignitas team and taking on the brunt of it as veterans, absolutely some props deserved over there.
The power of friendship stems from Afro because he's just such a likable and good leader on any squad. Then you have Ignar and Smoothie. Ignar, he's got the EG gene in him where he, sometimes Pantheon ults in 1v5 and dies. You got to do it.
I feel like he's rocking a slightly higher percentage than Senscared.
Yeah, he's maybe the 40-60. We'll give him that.
I was just saying the other problem is still that it's not even 50-50.
No.
That's what we're dealing with. Hey, evil geniuses, am I right?
And behind him, Smoothie. If this was only a rel power ranking, I might throw Smoothie in at number 2. But of course, it's just support in general, so he is in that number 7 spot. And Dreams is someone who I'm hoping could climb higher, because you remember the SK and Shulka runs that he had. People were talking about him approaching that top 3 support status in the LEC.
This is someone that absolutely is not out of the realm of wanting to get one of these, let alone deserving, right, as far as gameplay and all these other type of things. But you just want to, right, from what you said, from seeing his past, his history, and realizing that, you know what, it felt like there's more, right? It feels like there's something to be offered. There is that level that he can get to keep improving. Happy to see him get that opportunity here. And as you said, this is not just an opportunity. This is a pretty good one in what you're doing, and the potential of your partner beside you should be able to hopefully build on something.
Remember, the records from spring are carrying over. 27 more games in summer, so don't be panicking after week 1, because in a couple of weeks you're going to completely forget what even happened in week 1.
Hey, but buckle up, my man. It's another summer of the LCS.
It's a wild ride on the LCS roller coaster, but that's it for the player rankings today. Eric and Mark here with you guys, as always. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.